In April of 2020, an encounter at a Compton skate park would expose a disturbing abuse of police authority, one that would ultimately lead to the incarceration of two Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies. On April 13th, 2020, then LASD deputy Miguel Vega and his partner, Chris Hernandez, were at this skate park in Compton, California. There, they encountered a 23-year-old Hispanic skateboarder and as well a group of black kids skating together. During the interaction, the skateboard criticized the deputies, accusing them of harassing the black kids at the park. What followed was not lawful. Deputy Vega escalated the confrontation and physically forced the skateboarder into the back of his patrol SUV without probable cause. This Hispanic skateboarder was not informed that he was under arrest. He was not read his rights either, and was not secured with a seatbelt. The skateboarder, identified as Jesus Alegria, was unlawfully detained in the back of this police vehicle. While Alegria was still detained in the SUV, Deputy Vega began driving the patrol vehicle during a pursuit of another individual. During that pursuit, the patrol SUV crashed. Alegria was injured in the crash, suffering a head injury, including a cut above his eye. He was rushed to the St. Francis Medical Center in Linwood, where he remained hospitalized for weeks receiving treatment. Even after his release, he still had to go back for checkups. The person who Miguel Vega was chasing was a black person on a bike who, according to him, looked as if he had a firearm. But who knows if that's true? Thankfully, that black kid was never publicly identified, and he was able to run away, evading these deputies. The deputies afterwards killed an 18-year-old illegal immigrant named Andres Guardado, who was chased by them during his shift working as a security guard. At this point, the deputies started receiving hate, and this skate park incident became viral. As public outrage grew, a video recorded by one of Alegria's friends surfaced online. The footage showed the deputies walking near a fence at the skate park, with members of the group yelling at them shortly before the confrontation escalated. The video went viral on platforms including TikTok and YouTube. Both Deputy Miguel Vega and Deputy Chris Hernandez were fired from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Shortly after, the U.S. Department of Justice launched a federal investigation, emphasizing that law enforcement officers who violate civil rights would be held accountable. By the way, I have an episode of the illegal immigrant that they killed that I released recently. You guys should check it out after listening to this. In January 2021, Jesus Alegria filed a civil rights lawsuit against the two deputies and the county of Los Angeles. Rather than proceeding to trial, Los Angeles County's Administrative Division agreed to settle the case. In November 2022, at the Los Angeles County Superior Court, a settlement of $450,000 was approved, resolving this civil case. But legal consequences did not end there. In February 2023, both former deputies became the focus of a federal criminal probe within the Central District of California. Two DOJ Assistant U.S. Attorneys, Jamari Buxton and Brian Farstein, presented the probe to a federal grand jury at the Los Angeles Federal Court. In March 2023, the grand jury returned felony indictments for Miguel Vega, deprivation of rights, conspiracy, falsification, and witness tampering. For Chris Hernandez, conspiracy and falsification. On April 13th, 2023, exactly 3 years after the incident, the two prosecutors who had presented the probe to a grand jury and successfully got an indictment unsealed it and ordered that both of these former deputies surrender to the Los Angeles U.S. Attorney's Office. They did so accompanied by their private counsel, Brian Gerwitz representing Vega, and Michael Fee representing Hernandez. They were then transported to federal court, where they were arraigned before Judge Percy Anderson. Both pleaded not guilty and were allowed to remain free awaiting trial. Notably, these were the same two deputies previously involved in the fatal shooting of Andres Guardado, a case that had already placed them under intense scrutiny. Guardado had been chased by deputies for carrying a handgun, got underground, obeying their orders, and was shot anyway. Despite this reputation, both of these deputies got a slap on the wrist. Ultimately, they accepted plea deals. In July 2023, Chris Hernandez pleaded guilty to conspiracy. And in September of that year, Miguel Vega pleaded guilty to deprivation of rights. With the plea deals, the rest of the charges were dropped and both waived their right to appeal the case. Vega, after entering that guilty plea, was immediately sentenced by Judge Anderson to 2 years in federal prison. In January 2024, Hernandez was sentenced by that judge to 1.5 years in prison. Both were ordered to surrender the following month. In February 2024, they reported to custody, their first stop being the Los Angeles U.S. Marshal's office within that federal court. The marshals then transported them to their prisons, driving them. Miguel Vega was sent to the Duluth prison camp in Minnesota, while Chris Hernandez was designated to the FCI Florence in Colorado. Hernandez was released on Valentine's Day in 2025. Vega was released from the Long Beach halfway house on April 30th that year. The case remains a stark example of how unchecked authority can escalate into life-altering harm, and a rare instance where federal prosecution followed through on holding law enforcement officers criminally accountable for violating civil rights. Thank you for listening to this episode of Strawberry Inc. Till next time, take care, stay safe, and have a good rest of your day. I am very happy that these two deputies spent their prison time and were fired from their jobs. They got what they deserved.